Okay, let's say you are looking for a no doc business loan and you have an emergency, like you need to finance anything like inventory, you need to make payroll and whatnot. How do you actually get that? How do you actually make sure you get your funds real fast? And we're talking real fast, not like 3 days from now, but we're talking like on the same day, whatever. Okay. So here is the overview I really want you to really think about. First of all, I want you to picture the whole scenario. You got to ask yourself, where can I get emergency funds for your business? Okay, do you have a business? You got to ask yourself, because the whole thing is you don't want to waste your time going around town and asking for an emergency business loan, especially with no doc. You don't want to ask any lender. Now, when we talk about having emergency funds, usually you do have traditional lenders, you have micro lenders, you have crowdfunding. Okay, you have friends and family, but friends and family are not lenders. But in some cases, it might be. But when you think about, so you basically have a 3 or 4 or 5. Okay. But the thing here is that if you're looking for an emergency no doc business loan, your best bet is not traditional lenders, because you know what? Banks and the credit unions, they don't want to see your ass anyway when you're having problems, especially if you are looking for a no doc business loan. It won't happen. It won't happen. I don't care how solid your relationship is with your bank. If you're looking for an emergency loan, business loan with no doc, especially, what really will actually piss the bank off is the no doc. If you don't want to produce anything, your best bet is not micro lenders either. Okay, your best bet is alternative lenders. Basically, what you want to do here is that you want to contact those lenders who they really specialize in what we call this particular niche industry, niche sector. Okay, we have covered this on several shows. So if you're interested, we'll give you names. Okay, it's just that the only problems here is that their APR is kind of high. So be ready to pay like 25% or 30%, because they'll really kill you with their high APR. Like if you were to go to a regular bank like Bank of America, you were to ask them for a regular loan, like a regular business loan, they'll probably charge you 8%, 10%. But those players that I'm talking about here, 25%, 30%. That's the norm. Okay. And this really kind of makes sense. Why? Because they are actually taking extra risk. Okay. They're lending you, and especially the fact that you don't want to produce any sort of a paperwork, this could be problematic. And I will address the paperwork sort of topic later on anyway. Okay. But overall, this is something you need to think about, and it is what it is. Now, let me just give you the approach that we need to think about. Okay, when we talk about the approach, you need to understand it's really important to understand the types of emergency business loans, because when we talk about no doc business loans, we are talking about a specific set of business loan that you need to go after. Don't waste your time, because the whole thing is if you don't go after the right sort of business loan, you're not going to get it. Okay. Now, when we talk about types of business loan, you have business term loans, you have business lines of credit, you have invoice factoring, you have MCAs, those are called the merchant cash advances, okay? And you have SBA disaster loans. So this is the kind of loans I want you to target. If you're looking for no documentation business loans for emergencies, funds release real fast. This is the series of 5 business loans I want you to target. Let me repeat those loans again. Business term loans, okay? Business lines of credit, okay? Invoice factoring, merchant cash advances, SBA disaster loans. Don't look for anything else. You look for anything else, you are wasting your time. Now, how do you actually play the game? I want to quickly break it down for you. Let's first talk about the business term loan. Business term loan is just what it is. So you go to a player like Balboa Capital, or you go to a player like Kalamata Capital. Okay, those are the kind of players that will give you the emergency business loans. Okay, not Bank of America, not Chase, not Citi, not the Truist, not PNC, none of that. Okay, you want to go for those alternative lenders who specialize in this kind of loan. So you ask for a business term loan. Just make sure that this is the loan that will help you in terms of getting quick cash for your business. Normally, this kind of loans will actually close in 2 or 3 days, okay, maximum, if you have the proper sort of relationship with the lender. Because see, even though I'm talking about no documentation, you still have to provide something, right? I mean, that makes sense. I mean, they're not giving you cash for free anyway. They might actually, at a minimum, they'll ask you to connect your bank account to their system. So you're not producing any type of paperwork, but you are connecting their bank account to their system. Okay, so besides business term loan, you also have business line of credit. So you have a player like Smart Biz. They'll take care of you, and they'll give you the business line of credit for emergencies. Okay, give you the cash, no doc business loan, so you have access to the cash real quick. Let me now talk about another type of business funding that you might really need here. This is the let's just talk about invoice factoring. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. I'm talking about no doc business loans for emergency funds released real fast. How do you get that? Okay, so I just explained to you first the where you can get emergency funds, and we have already established that you're not going to get it through traditional lenders. You're not going to get it through micro lenders. You're not getting it through crowdfunding. You're not getting it through friends and family, unless your friends and family have deep pockets. Okay, and and now I'm just walking you through the types of emergency business loans you should go after. Okay, so we talked about business term loans. We spoke about business lines of credit. Now the whole thing here is you got to ask yourself, what does invoice factoring bring to me if I'm looking for cash real quick for my business? Well, invoice factoring is really very easy. Why? Because it can help you as a business owner get the emergency funding by giving you access to capital tied up in unpaid invoices. So my question to you is right now, do you have accounts receivable on your balance sheet? Boss, talk to me about that. If you have a balance sheet, if you have accounts receivable that they have been like 30 days like old or 45 days old, like if clients are playing game with you and not really paying you on time, you can sell those accounts receivable and get cash real fast. That's called invoice factoring. Okay, and so you have another combination called accounts receivable financing. The process, the logic here is the same. Basically, you're making money off of money that you have already made. In other words, of your accounts receivable. Accounts receivable, as you know, is an asset. So this is the type of I would say asset-based financing. Okay, and one thing you need to also understand is that when we talk about asset-based financing, we also talk about merchant cash advances. So merchant cash advances actually helps you get the cash real quick if you have electronic sales. Okay, and so merchant cash advances are typically fast funds. Okay, and you can be sure that you can qualify for this loan really quick. Why? Because basically the MCA provider just looks at your electronic cards statement to see the amount of revenue you are generating. Let me give you a few pro tips before we actually continue here. Boss, I want to quickly remind you once again of the topic we're having today. Because, see, the thing is, I'm just trying to contextualize the conversation so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. What I want to say here is that when should you get an emergency business loan? Because, especially if you're looking for no documentation, you got to be strategic about timing here. Because if you want to boost your chances of getting the business loan that you need, you got to be strategic. Okay, so you want to consider getting an emergency business loan when you need to pay for essential expenses. Let's say during a slowdown or change in operations, right? You know, like when you have your company, you go through all the yo-yos of the economy. You know, right now the economy is bad, tomorrow is good, blah blah blah. You know, like you have a rival that has more money than you, and they're just acquiring customers like crazy, and you want to actually fight back too. So this could be an opportunity to get an emergency business loan. And you can also get this type of loan if you are, let's say, you are trying to replace broken or damaged equipment. Something happens, you know, you have a piece of machinery that's broken and you just need to repair that piece of machinery real bad. So this is really cool. You can also use the cash to repair property damaged in a disaster. Only the Lord knows what happens these days. If you are in an area that's been, like, let's say, that's been hit by a disaster, like I'm talking about a natural disaster, like you know, a storm or whatever, anything, you know, anything weather related or anything geography related, you can actually get an emergency business loan. You can try to get this kind of loan also if you want to take advantage of let's say an unexpected opportunity, right? Let's say your business has identified something extraordinary in the industry and you're like, wow, I really want to get this. So this could be a possibility for you to actually fight to get a no doc business loan for an emergency and funds released real fast. Now there are instances though where I really need to say this because I'm not here pushing you to get a loan or to get indebted or to have business credit at all costs. You got to be strategic. Let me break it down. There are moments where you have to consider alternatives. Okay. So an emergency business loan, no documentation or low documentation may not be the right choice for you if your need for capital is not immediate, especially if you can qualify for more competitive rates and terms by waiting. And taking on debts will actually harm your financial situation instead of helping it. Okay, so be very careful here. Let me give you the steps you need to really think about when applying for an emergency business loan, no documentation. Now, one thing I really want to say first is that you want to sit down. I want you to write down right now for me your financing needs. How much do you need? You got to figure that out. You got to be clear about that, because see, the question is when you ask this thing to a lot of folks, they're like, well, I'm not really sure, like I think 20 grand will be fine. 25 grand will be fine. And I always ask back, I always ask this question back. How much exactly do you need for your emergency, like business loan, no documentation? Well, I'm not really sure. You see, that's right there. We have a problem, right? How can you be sure that you need a loan and you have no idea how much you really need? I mean, I'm talking about granularity here. You got to be really sure. I'm not asking you to give me random numbers. I don't need that sort of a situation. No, I'm asking you to give me a precise numbers because see, we're not asking for a personal loan. We're asking for a business loan, boss. So you got to be a little granular, a little more granular than that. So be clear about your financing needs. You need to evaluate that. And the second thing I want you to do here is I want you to check your qualifications, because the thing is that, no doc business loans for emergency funds released real fast are not easy to get. And the lender might ask, for example, to get they might ask to have to connect your system to their system so they can track your cash inflows and cash outflows. Usually when I'm talking about connecting your system to their system, I'm talking about either or. So there are two options here. Either they ask you to give them access to your business bank account so that they can have access to your account live. They will see the cash inflows. They will see the cash outflows. That's the first option. Or they ask you to connect their system to your accounting software. So if you have, let's say, QuickBooks or Xero or Wave, they will want you to connect your system to theirs, so they will see. Now, like the bottom line is, they want to look at your financials in terms of what comes in and what goes out. And they really don't it's not like they don't trust you. It's just that if you say you don't want to provide anything else, that's the only thing you can provide. Okay, so just be ready for that. Just expect that. One thing I really also want you to do here is that don't actually rush to kind of get the no doc business lenders for emergencies. Sometimes it's just a lot better to research and compare lenders. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to do this forever, because otherwise this will become like what analysis paralysis. We want to stay out of that realm, okay? And what you want to do is you want to take our time, maybe analyze and research 3 or 4 or 5 lenders and just choose one, okay? You don't have to analyze 20 lenders. No. And again, we have covered this on several other shows. And if you want, we'll just send you a list, or we'll send you videos you can just watch. And we have reviewed tons and tons and tons of emergency business lenders. Okay. And it's really important to compare several lenders. And it's not just about, what the thing is, when you compare lenders, it's not just because you want to see which one has the best APR. I mean, obviously you want to see that also. Which one has the best terms and conditions? You want to see that also. But most importantly, you want to see which one fits your specific situation. And when I'm talking about your situation, the state you are currently running the business from, the kind of sector you're in, because the thing is, in this economy, maybe your sector is having a growth pattern, whereas the whole economy is going down, or vice versa, right? So if your economy is running in sync with the rest of the economy, if your sector is running in sync with the rest of the economy, lucky you. But if you have some kind of a dichotomy, or some kind of a inverse relationship, then you need to find a lender that really fits you. That's what I mean by that, okay? And you need to understand, although speed may be a priority in an emergency situation, you got to constantly keep in mind that fast business loans can often result in higher interest rates. Okay, so be ready. See, we're not here sitting and talking about 10%. We're not talking about 15%. No, we're talking about three-digit in some cases. We're talking about 40%, 50%, 100%, 300%. That's what it is. You got to be ready for that. Okay. Now, and see, and this kind of rates are not just coming from predatory lenders. No. You can have regular lenders that are trying to play that game too. So it's one of those things you got to ask yourself: are you willing to go that far? Are you, like, quote unquote, are you that desperate for the cash that you need? Okay. So it's also important to, when we talk about researching and comparing lenders, make sure that you find a lender who is keen on providing transparency during the process. Okay, don't ask for lenders who are trying to play games. When you start asking questions, they dodge the questions. They're answering another question with, like, they're giving you an answer that is not related to your original question. You want to watch out for those things. Don't play that game. Don't let them play you like that. Don't let them razzle dazzle you. The thing I want you to do right now, and as you're trying to get your no doc business loan for emergencies funds released real fast, you got to really ask yourself, what kind of documentation, if any, do I have to provide during the application process? And this is the time when you really spend time talking to the business lender, talking to their rep. You will be assigned a business, like a loan rep who will assist you with everything. And this is the kind of conversation you want to have with that person. You want to ask them questions. You want to ask them questions about how fast the funds will be released. Okay, if there is a hard pull or a soft pull, if there is anything like that you need to be aware of. Okay, if they ask you to connect your bank account to their bank account or to their system, how quickly should you do that? Okay, if you need to integrate your accounting software, how quickly should you do that? So those are the kinds of conversations I really want you to start thinking about, so that you are clear about what they're asking you and you're clear about the deadline to provide what they're asking you. Okay, and because the last thing you want is to start ghosting your emergency business lender, because if they're asking a question and you ghost them, you don't get back to them, they call you, they email you, they text you, and you like playing games, you will not get your funds real quick. Remember, when we speak about emergency business loan, we are talking about speed. We're talking about celerity here. Okay, we're not trying to get the cash in 3 days or 4 days. They'll be too late. In some cases, we're not talking about 2 weeks or 2 months. No, they'll be too. That's the reason why you don't go to a bank, right? That's the reason why you don't go to a credit union. So be very clear about that, okay? And so here we are speaking about being clear about the deadlines. Be clear about the requirements, okay? And you need to find the right business loan based on time to fund, based on your qualification. Make sure that you are able to, first of all, narrow down the list and be very clear about those players, those lenders who are authorized to do business in your state. Remember, lending, whether it is personal lending or business lending, is a state affair. It's not a federal affair. So you can have a lender who is really great, but just want to make sure they are authorized to do business in your state. Otherwise, you'll run in trouble. You will be very frustrated, because the lender will tell you, hey, listen, we can't lend to you even though you qualify. We cannot lend to you because blah blah blah. There are restrictions. We don't have a license. So be very clear about that. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, let me just quickly do a recap here. I was talking to you about how to get a no-doc business loan for emergencies, funds released real fast, and I actually give you an overview where we talked about where you can get those emergency funds for your business, and I give you the approach in terms of the types of emergency business loans, and I focused on business term loans, business lines of credit, invoice factoring, MCAs, merchant cash advances, and also SBA disaster loans. I give you a few pro tips when to get an emergency business loan and when to consider alternatives, and I give you the steps you need to follow to actually get the loan that you need. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.